Brent crept forward. He eyed the large cattle. They were his targets, but just nabbing one wouldn't be easy. That's why he was hired for it. Watching over the herd was a massive hound. Its head swiveled around. It let out a yawn as it basked in the evening sun. Brent stepped forward with his axe ready. Step by step he moved in. If he could avoid the hounds, he would, but he wasn't that lucky. The dog picked up the barbarian scent and stood up tall. With two heads, it growled at the man in its fields. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today we meet the brother of the mighty Cerberus, the guard dog, Orthrus. Let's take a look at this mighty hound. Orthrus, or Orthus, comes from Greek mythology, meaning twilight. He is the child of Typhon and Echidna. You are probably more familiar with his younger brother, Cerberus, who guards the underworld Tartarus. Orthrus's first owner may have been the giant god Atlas, who held up the earth. After that, Orthus served as the guard dog with his master Eurytion, the three-headed and three-bodied giant Geryon. They watched his herd of red cattle on Erythea, the land of the setting sun. Orthrus would guard these cattle until two events happened, depending on the story. In most of them, Heracles is sent to collect Geryon's cattle as the 10th of his 12 labors. How Heracles kills Orthrus depends on the story versus the artwork. In the story, Orthrus is clubbed to death, but in the artwork, Orthrus was killed by Heracles' archery skills. Both could be true. The second story comes from Jason and the Argonauts. Not me, Jason. The hero, Jason. Well, I'm not sure about the hero part. You'll see. Regardless, in those tales, it was the Argonaut Polyphemus who did it. But Heracles did spend time with the Argonauts, so again, both could be true here. I am more partial to Heracles, because the story of the Argos' voyage leads it to the east, while Erythea was in the west. Some say that after his death, Orthrus was raised into the night sky to become the star of Sirius. Orthrus is described as an immense hound. He has two notable features. First, like his brother Cerberus, is that he has a tail like a serpent. The second, and more notable, is that he has two heads. Lastly, he has a ranged attack in the form of a powerful poisonous breath. That isn't as much as we have with other mythical creatures. The first question about Orthrus' biology is if it is a set of conjoined twins or not. Conjoined twins will often have difficulty walking, with each twin having partial control over the body. Orthrus isn't described as having this problem, which means that it probably isn't. There is a good chance that either only one head controls the body, and the second head is just along for the ride, or possibly only one head has a brain, and the other is just for show. Both are likely in this case. Unless I can directly examine its behavior, I can't determine which exactly though. If it does have a brain in each head, but the act is one, there is an option. By linking the two brains using a series of nerves to effectively share senses and allow them to operate as a single brain. This may be what is going on. If it is, it brings up an option. If one brain can sleep at a time while the other is active, then it can remain perpetually awake at all times. It could switch between one side to the other without difficulty. This would be incredibly useful since it can watch the herd of cattle without needing to stop to fully sleep. A perfect match to how good Orthrus was as a guard dog. We'll need to figure out its respiratory system and digestive tract next. This is fairly simple though. We'll need the trachea to connect to both heads. The same for the esophagus. This means it can eat and breathe with both heads without difficulty. It also means it will be more difficult to choke in a fight. The strength of the heart may need a little boost. Normally, about 20% of the blood goes to the brain with every heartbeat. Due to the brain's high oxygen demand, with two heads, would need to double that, thus a stronger heart. Would the double trachea allow for improved respiration, where there is little mixing of old and new air? This is complicated. Respiration comes from the ribs, the intercostal muscles, and the diaphragm. Those aren't duplicated though. That means the air is either going in or out at any given time. Even if the two trachea don't connect at the same point, you'll still get the same air exchange. It'll be more complicated with the snake tail. Does it have its own respiratory system, nervous system, and digestive system? The last is unlikely. If it shares a circulatory system with the rest of the body, then it should be fine. That would also allow for oxygen exchange, so no need for those systems. But if the snakehead on the tail can hiss, it will need some form of lungs and respiration. Orthrus is said to have a poisonous breath. Okay, technically a venomous breath, not a poisonous, since it is being used as a weapon, not a defense. What kind of venomous gas? Sadly, there is little detail here. Most of it seems to induce weakness. This will lead to either a neurotoxin which weakens nerve conductivity to the muscle, or a toxin which blocks the muscles. This would usually be done by having something that upsets the electrical gradient of the sodium and potassium ions in the nerves and muscles. Weaponizing this is fairly easy though. We'll need a gland by the mouth to store the toxin. Then to expel it, we can use the respiratory system. Conceptually, this would be a cross between bad breath and a lethal sneeze in how it works. The attack range would be determined if both mouths are open or if one is closed. With one mouth closed, it would have a greater attack range. Let's see if we can figure out how Heracles bested Orthrus. The first thing is his incredible senses. Supposedly, he could smell every creature on the island and knew the instant that Heracles arrived. You'll need to hide your scent. Use a potion to do it, or try and hide your scent by covering yourself in the excrement of cattle. It'll give you the best chance of hiding your scent, but chances are that you will fail, and you'll end up in a fight. If I am right on its ability to remain perpetually awake, that means you won't catch it unaware. Orthrus is a hound. That means we have claws on the paws which can rip you apart, and jaws which can break bones. Like most canines, claws are the lesser threat, but due to Orthrus' size, those claws are still dangerous. Chainmail and gambeson will stop the claws, but you'll want plate armor to protect against the bites. If it bites down on your arm will break. But none of that will stop the toxic breath. You'll need to keep your distance. That is why Heracles used a bow. He used arrows laced with venom from the Hydra. That is amongst the strongest of all venoms in Greek mythology. Without that weapon, it is possible that Heracles may have had more trouble in the fight. There are a couple ways to deal with the poison breath magically. A wind spell will blow it away, but does run the risk of blowing it into a party member, or the cattle if that is what you are after. A rain spell will help to dilute it and wash it from the air. Lastly, having your healer with a spell to neutralize it will work. The venom isn't instant death. That means it will take time before you are left unable to fight back. Fire, lightning, and ice magic may be used to keep your distance. None bears a risk and should be used well, though possibly lightning and thunder could serve as a deterrent against such a hound. Ideally, close quarter combat should be avoided, but if you find yourself there, you'll want a weapon that you are quick with. A spear for thrusting, or a quick sword should work well. The target will need to be the heart and lungs. It should only have one heart and two lungs located in the chest. Now, despite having two throats, cutting one will still be fatal. Slicing the jugular will trigger rapid blood loss and a drop in blood pressure, which leads to the body trying to increase blood pressure and blood flow. Oddly enough, under such a deep wound to a critical artery, this is the worst thing to do and will only worsen the situation. So, slicing either throat will be the killing blow. A blow to the head may stun it. Potentially, taking out one head will leave it partially paralyzed on one side, but that depends on how the brains are set up. Potentially, it will only have one head go limp. If one head bites you, it can hold you in place for the other to get a good grip and deal a fatal blow. Don't let it bite you, even with armor on. Watch out for the small snake tail. Its bites can hurt, but if it holds any venom, you'll be in trouble. It can reach around a shield and find openings in your armor. You can slice it off with a quick sword though. You may be thinking that you can use a spell to speak with animals or tame beasts to get by, but that won't work here. Orthrus is known for his intense loyalty and dedication to his master. You won't be able to persuade him to look the other way, but if you have a party, a portion of it can engage Orthrus, while the others lure the cattle away. He can only be in one place at a time. Orthrus has the potential to be a dangerous foe. You'll need to be ready to deal with its deadly breath attack, and that will take some care to avoid. You'll need to deal with its double jaws and powerful fangs while fighting it. So long as you approach it with care, you should be able to handle it in battle. Orthrus does deserve a 5 of 10 in combat due to its ability to fight at range and still be deadly close, while also being hard to surprise in battle. Be careful. If you slay Orthrus, you'll get the pelt. It is tough and durable when tanned. Due to its size, you can make more than enough leather armor for a couple of people, most of your party. The meat is edible as well, as long as it doesn't contain any of his poison from the battle. Be sure to clean and purify it before eating. You can also use the bones in tools and decorations. But Orthrus is a dog, and like any dog, he can be tamed. Now, taming Orthrus isn't easy. He is loyal to his master. Until his master is slain, his loyalty will hold. If you can find him after his master has perished, then you can attempt to recruit him to your side. As an ally, you can watch your party and defend in battle. You can watch at night without difficulty. He is a powerful fighter which can rip into enemies and reduce their numbers. If you can recruit him, you can place him to guard a place and he will hold it. Even when not in a fight, you can use a mass of bees to intimidate foes. Though, there is an option of collecting its venomous breath. From there, you can coat your own weapons and wield them in battle. If placed in a bottle, you can then use a wind spell to disperse it into the fields. This will let you weaken and immobilize foes before beginning the battle. Truly, Orthus can be an invaluable ally when recruited, and should be brought along whenever possible. Brent roared as he raced forward. Orthus spewed out foul gas. He rolled sideways to evade as the beast sprang at him. Fangs gritted his axe, and he moved to gain distance, just in time for another pair of snapping jaws at him. Every time he made a move, the beast made two, always on the back foot. Brent was forced back. Between the fangs and the poison gas, he couldn't get in. His eyes watched his comrades. The ranger and rogue were lining up their shots. Arrows flew and embedded themselves in Orthus's back. The hound howled as it fell to the ground, paralyzed by their poison. Stepping forward, he dropped his axe twice and finished it. Sweating, he looked to the others to begin the work of herding the cattle back. Orthrus is a dangerous foe, easily comparable to his brother Cerberus. Which do you think is more dangerous? Potentially, Orthrus. Heracles did subdue Cerberus without killing it. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week for the treasure bird, Alicanto. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.